All right, that's that. Welcome everybody. First live stream in like 6 months. It's gonna take me a minute to get it all sorted out here, and then we'll bring Shane in a minute. But we're talking Cosmos, we're talking Stargaze, and it's basically going to be kind of a continuation from the um the space that took place over on X a couple days ago, where Shane Stargaze team were talking about the possible merger, possible migration of Stargaze to the Cosmos hub. So let me get finish getting set up over here, and we'll get this going. Hopefully you're doing well. You could say hi in the chat. I usually don't have a chat when I do my live stream, but we're gonna have one today, and we'll make sure that's showing up. There it is. So just check in the chat if you're on YouTube. It should be over on the right or down below, and let me know that you're here. I don't have a huge agenda here. Just want to kind of get to know what's going on with this situation. Maybe some things have developed in the last week, and we'll get to know a little bit more about what Shane is thinking, and hopefully do this again, maybe with a representative of the hub, right? We'll talk to Mag or somebody like that about this. But I see Shane's over in the green room, so I'm going to bring him in a sec, and we'll get going. Yeah, first live stream since like I don't even know when, since like October. I don't even know. I was doing like Sunday morning live streams. Actually, no, sorry, it's Monday night. Live streaming is not easy. It's not easy. I got a bunch of things here. I got water, I got drinks, got paper. I got my remote for my camera, got my remote for my air conditioner, and it is not definitely not for anybody. So if you see someone on a live stream and they're absolutely like killing it, like Tank used to with his live stream, or like uh Don, you can see Don was like always doing other stuff and it comes through on the live stream not so great. Oh, like Scott. Scott's live stream is awesome on a dark side of the podcast. He's like a pro. That's not me. So this is going to be it's going to be like very experimental, very experimental. So all right, I got the chat working. Got 100 people watching this. Most of you guys are probably on Twitter. If you're on YouTube, it's better because you get to ask questions. We'll bring in Shane. We'll set the screen up, and then we'll get going. This is not going to be like a 3-hour marathon, guys. So we'll we'll respect everyone's time. Yeah, it's not going to work with the chat, is what I'm seeing. So I'll bring comments onto the screen occasionally, and then I'll zoom myself out so we're the same size. How's it going, Shane?
Good, man. Good. Do you hear me okay?
Yeah, you got a professional setup over there, so you probably sound better than me.
Okay, great. I mean, this is only like the fourth or fifth time I'm ever using this mic, but it comes in handy.
Oh, all right. It's been like probably the third time with me then. All right,
Yeah.
we'll get rid of
Yeah.
the chat. I think this is good enough. All good. How's it going?
Good, man. Just really busy. Trying to get this hub post up and running. It's taking a bit longer than expected because there's just a lot of moving parts.
I bet.
And just lots of like data to kind of gather and make our case, but also make sure that this is a good deal for the hub as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was on the space last week, I know I come off as like biased, like heavily in Stargaze's favor, but we've seen the Cosmos hub get like ripped off so many times. So
Yeah.
people are paranoid about that, right? They want the hub to get a good deal, right? So I think I'm in the camp where if both sides can't agree, maybe it's better to like put it down for a minute or explore other options rather than one side get a good deal, at the expense of the other side.
I mean, this is a very difficult thing to do because
Probably never been done.
it hasn't been done to my knowledge. Usually M&A deals like this are usually like always private, right? They're between companies, not between public blockchains.
Yeah.
And certainly not public blockchains that like run through governance, right? So it's very complicated because the thing is that not like just regular token holders and app users aren't generally always the people with like the full knowledge of all the operational expenses and kind of what goes on behind the scenes and stuff like that, right? So that's why I think crypto is like kind of slowly learning that um, there's a reason why we move to like structures like companies and boards and like things like
Yeah,
that because
streamline it.
yeah, you kind of have to kind of streamline it, and it's very interesting kind of watching crypto kind of learn all these lessons and stuff like that. But like doing something like this in public is just very, very difficult because we know that um, people will have a lot of questions, comments, and feedback. And even the structures we have aren't like really suitable for this kind of stuff, right?
I bet. I mean, it's like it's emotional too because you see how Web3 is. Like it's different when you have like institutional investors who could quantify a company's assets. Like, okay, you have this patent and this machinery and all this physical, asset to measure. Here, people are just like so attached to their tokens, and it's and it's like a made up. It's like fairy dust, right? So I I kind of want to be a fly on the wall, but I'm like maybe it's better that I don't. I'm like the customer. I don't need to know like all the details. So what I did was, hopefully this is okay with you, and of course, if we miss anything that you want out there, we can get over it. I got like 5 questions, and then if the chat has some stuff they could throw in there, um, we can do that. But I guess
Sure.
the way that you introduced this on the space was perfect when you basically said this is how Cosmos was. If you liked Cosmos, you couldn't build on Cosmos. You had to take the Cosmos SDK and build your own thing that was connected to Cosmos. But now we can build things on Cosmos. Like that's like the best way to explain it. Um, but this is still like, is it a merger? Is it just a simple migration? Like it sounds like you think of it as like a merger, like M&A, like is like the context that you think of this possibility.
Yeah, I see it more as like an acquisition because at least the way we're going to be proposing it is that stars would get absorbed by Atom, right? So that's and like the apps would move to the hub, and the NFTs would get migrated to the hub, and the users also will get migrated to the hub. So I'm kind of seeing it
Right.
as like an acquisition. Um, yeah, and to
Okay,
be
so I
able,
was going to ask you, what do you see as the quote unquote assets that the hub is getting? And you basically just laid it out, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So I just laid out like the actual assets, right? So, uh, um, like, so first of all, I had to preface this by saying that like this has to go through governance first. Like nothing we're talking about is set in stone, right? And I know I'm sure there's going to be some back and forth on the hub forums, right?
Mhm.
Which isn't really like set up for like it's not really set up for like a negotiation,
I was going
right?
to say it's not like a thing where you just comment linearly. A negotiation is back and forth, and that yeah, the forum is
Yeah,
not great for that.
and it is not really made for that. So this is a bit kind of historic in that sense. So I expect to get a bunch of comments and then iterate on the post and keep track of the changes and stuff like that, so people can kind of maybe see the document like evolving over time. Because we don't want to get to a point where we like post this on the hub and it doesn't go through or whatever, right?
Right.
So we want to get it like flushed out properly in the forums and stuff like that, and even as just a regular document before that. Um, but I actually lost track of your question while I was giving
It
you that.
wasn't. The question was something along the lines of, what is the hub getting?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And,
Okay.
like, like there's probably a better way to ask that, but
Yeah,
that's
I think the main the biggest thing the hub is getting is this like active monthly active like 20,000 like monthly active users, right? That are more than just stakers. Like all the hub has right now is just passive stakers, um, and
yeah, yeah,
I really like kind of Mag and Barry's kind of vision to create an entire like DeFi ecosystem. So they're going to need regular consumer retail users, and this is kind of like a way to kind of bootstrap that that ecosystem and just bring like fun and culture
that's
and
it.
you
That's
know
exactly.
to the
You're
hub.
bringing a very unique subset of retail to the hub that's hard to it's hard to replicate, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, if you look at numbers, like though, like for example, if you look at like Blur and Magic Eden, right? Like, they did like significant airdrops and stuff like that to acquire their users, right? So, just to give you some stats, if like Blur paid something like $2,500 like per user to acquire each user. Magic Eden paid on average something like $5,000 to acquire per user, right? So that's these are like it's not too kind of hard to quantify like what Stargaze like what value is bringing to the hub, because it's bringing uh, like a significant number of active passionate users to the hub.
okay, so you and I are probably on the same page with the idea that out of everything that a Web3 application brings, the users are the thing, right? They're the asset that, without them there is no app, there is no token, right? So um I think we're on the same page there. Like the users are the platform to
Yeah,
an
because
extent
they
when you have a marketplace, right?
right, they're the ones signing transactions. They're doing all the volume, right? And the thing is, you can upsell them on other apps, right? So if they come for the NFT platform, when there's a DEX, they'll start using the DEX.
Oh
If
yeah, that's yeah.
letting a bomb, they'll start using that, right? So it's a good way to kind of bootstrap like the user base on the hub.
For people that are watching, the way I look at NFTs is, for me, every NFT project is a small business that's trying to build some kind of brand, right? So when Stargaze is the marketplace, the venue where the activity occurs, but each creator is, whether they think of themselves this way or not, is irrelevant. They're entrepreneurs. They started a small business, and the NFT is their brand. It's it's how they are viewed by those who engage in the platform, and they physically have to sell these things. Like the NFTs are a consumer product, whether you like NFTs or not. They are a product that has to get sold, and the platform provides the venue for this, right? So I look at, I just got off of space with Stride, and they were talking about the original vision of the hub was to be like a bazaar. Well, the marketplace is the bazaar, right? People are walking around shopping, and then you have each, like a flea market. If anyone knows what that is, I don't know. Are there still flea markets? I don't know, but you have like these little booths and these little tables where the small business owner trying to sell you what they've made. And to me, that's what an NFT is, a digital version of that. And it is an experience as well, because you have the build up to the mint, you have the mint, then you have the hype around the mint, and then you have the secondary market trading, and then the roadmap, if there is one, with the NFT project. So that's how I look at NFTs. I never fault the creator, whether the collection is something I like or not. To me, they're launching a small business, and Stargaze is the platform for that.
Absolutely right. And just like small businesses, not all of them are gonna succeed, right?
No, and I
So
can't fault them, for trying and failing, um, because I don't. I thought many times to launch an NFT collection. I never had the balls to do it. Right, so it's it takes a lot. especially if the creator is also the artist. Like, my God, like everyone I've ever talked to said they couldn't sleep the night of the mint. Every single artist that I ever talked to,
Yeah.
because usually it's on a Friday and the mint is on a Friday or Saturday, whatever. They
Yeah.
can't sleep. I'm like, that's probably how I'd feel if I was like opening a restaurant or whatever the case might be, you know?
Yeah, right. And you know, this is a way for the hub to get not just the marketplace, but also the launch pad. Because like what you're talking about
Mm,
more and more is the launch pad, right? I think one of the biggest issues with Stargaze is that we just called everything Stargaze, right? So that like the chain is Stargaze, the marketplace is Stargaze, the launch pad is Stargaze. Like it's in retrospect, maybe we should have. I just wanted everything to just be very simple, right? So I wanted. Um, just my background in making, you know, iOS apps and stuff like that. I just wanted it to be just extremely simple and not be like, you know, every other chain where like everything has their own name and stuff like that. But uh, right now, Stargaze is a Stargaze L1 app chain, right? And then you have the Launchpad app, you have the Marketplace app, you have the Names app, which is like ENS. You have Infinity Pools, which is the only kind of app that like has his own name a little bit. Um, yeah, Launchpad is a launchpad for these projects and a launchpad for communities. And you know, more recently, we've kind of had product market fit with like launching collections for other chains, right? So like Omis for Mantra, slots for Celestia, right?
I think that's huge because like Kujira did it, Celestia did it. I think that's awesome. I think
Yeah,
that's awesome.
they're, they're
That was
really
like your niche for a while, and maybe still is, right?
it still is. Yeah, we have. I don't want to mention all of them. We have a couple more on the way. I know. Maybe I can mention like Akash, like in the works, and a few others.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
People are gonna love that.
yeah.
People are gonna love that. All right. Um, I want to just go down my questions, I guess, if that's
Sure,
cool
man.
with you. I know you said that you can't stay for more than like an hour or so, so we'll make that happen. Um, People that are watching either have NFTs or they have the stars token or they have both, I would imagine. So for me, you know, I've got the number one after the filter NFT. What is going to happen to that if Stargaze quote unquote merges with the hub?
Yeah. So we went through multiple different ways of that happening. Um, the first kind of plan was to, um, you know, we developed ICS 721, which lets you transfer NFTs across chains.
Mm,
And the initial plan was to use that and to give people like a period of time, maybe like 6 months or something, to like self migrate their NFTs over. And then we realized that that might be too cumbersome, and we don't want to run into a situation where like half a collection is like stuck on Stargaze and people didn't want to move it or whatever. Um, so I think a cleaner approach is do a snapshot of all the owners
yeah.
and then just do like a batch like airdrop of everything, you know, all their assets to the hub. And the fact that the hub uses the same key type just makes it so much easier because your key is exactly the same. So like we can just airdrop to the equivalent address on the hub. But I really want to maintain provenance for NFTs. I mean, that's the entire point of NFTs is the provenance. So for that, what we're probably going to do is to save all the, you know, historical transfer data, provenance data in and like upload that to IPFS, and then in the new contract on the hub, include a link to IPFS that has the provenance for that NFT. So everything
Could
is.
you do it as an inscription on so it's on the hub as well? Have you looked into that or is that not possible?
We could possibly do that. I mean, yeah, there are inscriptions of the hub right in the memo field. That's what the Neutron.
Maybe that could be a feature that you guys offer, right? You could let people pay for that. Like let them pay the gas and the fees and whatever else. Say, hey, look, you could have your all the historical info for this NFT. Like, you know, maybe there's an NFT that Shane minted and then sold to Don Kryptonium, and then he tried to burn it but screwed up and accidentally sold it for like below the floor price, and now you have it, right?
Yeah.
That data is important. It really is.
Yeah. I mean that's what kind of gives NFTs their value. So yeah, we can use inscriptions. That's definitely a possibility. The only kind of downside to that is that if you, it does complicate things if you do want to use IBC to transfer to other chains or so forth. That hasn't been too much of like a big thing yet. It could be in the future.
What do you mean it could be? You mean that data will be
No, just
tough?
like transferring like NFTs across chains, right?
Oh, oh, oh.
So let's say sometime in the future there's like, well, I mean there already is, but let's say there's like a gaming chain or something, right? And like the NFTs are minted on the hub, and you want to transfer them to the gaming chain or whatever, right? Then in that case, that might be if it's like inscription based. If the metadata and the data is in like the inscription, then that like complicates the transfer over to the other chain.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
maybe a collection by collection basis, the creators might have to figure that out for their own communities,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah. I like that as like an option.
yeah, all right, makes sense. So to summarize, I got my NFTs on Stargaze. I'm gonna get an Atom. I don't want to say version. I'm gonna get the NFT reminted on Atom, but with the you call it provenance data. I like that. Will be somehow figured out so that it's not a different quote unquote different NFT that's like just birthed with no history.
Right, exactly. So the history will be saved on IPFS and that will be linked to the collection. And then on the marketplace, on the new marketplace that would be deployed on the hub, it could show the activity. Just like there'll just be like one extra step where it like migrated to the hub or something, but like your entire provenance will still be there, right? So
Perfect.
like all the old activity for Stargaze and stuff like that would still like transfer over.
All right. This is a question about your team, actually.
Uh-huh.
I feel like you're pretty tight with your team, and you like carefully select people, and you listen to them.
Well, yeah.
What's right? So what's the number one reservation or pushback that you get from your team, or you got from your team when you first? I mean, you got to sell this idea,
Yeah.
right? It's like not easy. So, like, what's the number one pushback that you get from your team on this?
Well, I think first of all, we're very tight. I built a really kind of solid team. Everyone enjoys working with each other, and they want to continue doing that. I think that's the main thing. Um, Pushback wise, I think a lot of people are kind of married to the chain and the token. Maybe even if the performance hasn't been that great, and
Hmm.
um, like just I guess change is a bit difficult, right? And
Yeah, I mean, start. You guys were in kind of a unique spot, right? Because you were one of the first app chains, but also you were kind of by yourself. Stargaze, especially after the Terra collapse, I feel like Stargaze built its own community, its own culture separate from the rest of Cosmos, right? So maybe there's some attachment there. Do you think that's accurate?
yeah, I think that's accurate. Yeah, I think we've always been a um, bit of a black sheep here because the thing is, you so at the time we launched, you had Terra, which was kind of like its own ecosystem, right? And
Yeah,
and
I never used it. Yeah,
right,
it was its own.
right. It was the first kind of chain to use Cosmos in production, but they never like used the word Cosmos or anything like that. It was just always Terra, right? So like culturally, it was kind of isolated. It wasn't IBC connected. Um, and then the rest of like I guess the rest of kind of Cosmos, like even the term Cosmos, like it's still like ambiguous. Like, is it the hub? Is it the ecosystem? Is it the technology? Right. But at that time, it was like this nerdy group of people that are into proof of stake, right? And it was just all about staking and
Mhm.
validators, right? And I remember when we were building Stargaze, like the validators were so confused because they just like have no concept of like anything on the app level, right?
Mhm.
And I was like super active in DeFi summer. Like I was playing around with Ethereum, all the DeFi protocols and stuff like that. And when I was messing around in Cosmos, I like just realized that there's just so many people here who don't even know that that world exists. There's all they just do is stake, and they passively stake and earn yield. And to me, that was like so boring. Like you gotta just do more with this stuff. Um, and then here we come like building this like super consumery thing. Um, and I think to a lot of the neckbeards just didn't like understand that. And I run hardware and validators myself, so like I know where they're coming from. But I just they didn't I think like understand the kind of kind of retail consumer like aspect of this stuff, which is just has a lot more like prominence on like Ethereum and like Solana, especially like Solana is like very very like consumer like oriented, right?
Oh yeah,
But,
from the top down too.
yeah.
It's they care about apps. They care about putting things in the user's hands for sure.
Yeah, and Cosmos never had that culture, right? So like Cosmos always had a very kind of like academic research culture, right? And and now that I think about it, I think that was actually like I think certain I don't want to name any names or anything, but I think definitely a lot of people in the ecosystem leverage that to their benefit, right? So like there's you can come up with some very esoteric researchy kind of like idea and like moonshot thing that will like never ship, but then you like raise
Oh yeah.
like millions from VCs and you like just launch a token and don't even build any products, right? It's like
For about 2 years, there was always a new launch.
yeah. Yeah,
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 yeah.
it's like I there has to be a name for that, like research grift or something. Like like I don't know.
I
um
I loosely refer to it as the gray area of Web3. Some people thrive in that gray area, and that's why they stay in Web3, right? There's like that lack of accountability, and combined with the getting rewarded for hopium and hype, that keep people in this space. Because I always joke, I say, I always see these tweets at least once every couple weeks where there's like a founder or a co-founder or a builder who puts a big long tweet about, after a long 7 months at this job, I'm gonna move on to a new role. I all my former coworkers were great. I had nothing but great things to say about them, but I'm gonna move over here. And they never move to like TradFi or like Web2. It's always into the next Web3 thing. And I'm like, there are people who probably can't operate outside of Web3 because of partially what you just brought up. And
yeah, the incentives are really messed up, and it's like much easier
yeah.
is much easier to like um it's just much easier to like not build something than build something, right? Like projects that have a token and no product, like the like even if you look at stars, like stars is best performance when we had no products, right? And the more
Oh yeah, I
products
was LPing. It was great.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I LP'd it. Yeah.
Right, right. It's just a chain, and there's like zero product, right? And if you look at the best performing tokens, a lot of them are like that too. It's just like there's nothing, there's like no sell pressure because there's like nothing to do, right, right. And
Yeah.
it's so weird. And then like the best kind of way to make money in this industry is to like come up with some crazy like moonshot idea that's gonna take like 10 years to build, right?
But it has to make people feel good.
It has to
That's
make
it.
people feel good, and
Yeah.
you had to keep like announcing that you're doing stuff, but you don't actually do stuff. And then you like launch a token, and then all the VCs and stuff like exit in like a year or two, and just dump on retail, and people end up suffering later on, right? And like the project doesn't end up building anything really.
I've got the next idea, by the way, that
Yeah.
will accomplish that. But I'm not going to say it because I would definitely get in trouble if I said it on a live stream.
Go all out, man. Say it.
Based on just based on my feed, we need a Cosmos L1 with only women validators and only women users. That's based on my Twitter feed. I think that would do awesome.
I think that's
I
a good
think,
idea.
and I think that the
But
if
it's hard to prove that though. Who's gonna go and actually make sure that they're women?
oh, it doesn't matter. It's never going to launch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just going to be a token.
Well, but there's only going to be you're only going to have 3 users.
It doesn't matter. There's going to be lots, but the VCs can be men.
I don't know, Joe. This is getting. I don't know if maybe some people might say genders on a spectrum or something.
That's true too. So then, all right, so we can't do it. All right, let me go. All right, now there's people in the chat. All right, let me. I'll bring up the first audience question. I don't get this question, but maybe you understand the context here. How does the value contributed to the hub by Hydro compare to the value generated by Stargaze? Hydro is what? Like distributing like funding? I don't really, I'm not familiar with Hydro completely.
So I think you just answered the question. You just answered it.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Right. The fact that you don't even know what Hydro does answers this question. And I think I don't know how much Hydro got. I don't even exactly know what Hydro does. And they got something like 5 million or something like that, right?
There you go.
Right. And like what else has the hub funded? ICS, massive failure, right?
I know. It sounded good though.
ADAO, what like has anything that the hub has funded so far been a success? I mean, like Stargaze is like literally the only successful, if this goes through, would be literally one of the only successful things that the hub has ever funded.
So when Accelerator DAO supposedly spun down, but we're still paying out like the 20,000 in salaries for the month. My heart like turned a little black.
You know, I've never taken a salary while I've worked at Stargaze.
I remember you told me that. But you know they chewed us down like $1,500 for NFT Nashville, and we had more people watch that stream than watched Cosmoverse. Isn't that crazy? Like that was streamed onto Scott's channel on a dark side of the podcast. They chewed us down. And the only reason why we asked for the amount that we asked is because we're running the grant through an American LLC, which is like basically a 30%. There's like a 30% tax. So we had to account for that, and they chewed us down. They chewed us down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, they paid out 20,000 in salaries, and the thing is done. So
yeah. I mean, I remember our drama with AADAO. I remember like we tried to get like funding for like building like an indexer. And then I remember having like an interview with like 2 people there, and then they rejected it. And then I remember they posted all the projects that like applied and stuff like that, and they had like a rejection column, and our project wasn't there. And then when we complained about it, then all of a sudden it was there. Like they just added it in later. Just complete like amateurish bullshit.
Yeah. My knee-jerk reaction to hearing about the merge, and like let's just assume that the argument is over money. The hub can do a lot worse, right? Than onboarding thousands of users potentially, and an app that has always worked since day one. I remember the Genesis day. I remember it was like 10 or 15 projects that all launched at the same exact time, and there was not a single hiccup other than projects selling out instantaneously, but there was no technical issue.
The only technical issue we had was that it didn't work on Ledger. That was the only issue we had. Everything was like super smooth. And like, in retrospect, like if we had issues, it would have brought more attention to it. Like, I tell like Jorge and the team like all the time, like, we should like make the chain crash or something or halt one day, just to like show people that like, we're freaking operating this chain and it hasn't gone down in like 4 years. um, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to be all negative here. I do think, I do think, like the, ICL leadership is great. I do like the direction where things are going. I do think they're going to make a change, and I'm optimistic about it. Um, and let's see how this kind of deal unfolds. But you know, at least we have people talking about like building new apps and building a
Yeah,
whole new ecosystem. Uh, they're I think like ICF's funds would be like, you like allocated better now. Um, so I think things are getting better.
got a couple questions about DAO in the chat here.
Sure.
Um, any technical challenges to migrating DAOs that you're aware of, or do you think when it's all said and done, it's going to work out just fine, especially for those NFT DAOs where they're kind of reliant on both Stargaze and DAO?
Yeah. So the good thing is, DAO is already on the hub. And we're going to do everything with Cosmosm initially, although the hub is migrating to EVM at some point. That's kind of a separate discussion. But specifically for DAOs, I still kind of have to look into that. But I believe, at least the treasury. So DAO has a functionality where you can like do transactions like across chains, right?
Okay.
So we may have to do like, cross IBC transactions for that, and this would be very cool. Actually, it might be one of the very first times this is being used, but we can do something potentially like, have the DAO on Stargaze vote to move the treasury to its equivalent DAO on the hub, right?
Okay.
So like recreate the DAO on the hub and then like vote to migrate the treasury over there.
So maybe like worst case scenario, people will have to restake their NFTs into the DAO or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, worst case scenario. Yeah. So what we're probably going to do with the NFTs in the DAOs is we're probably going to like snapshot those and then just airdrop them to the account. And then, yeah, worst case scenario, they would have to like restake them.
All right. You mentioned Interchain Labs. I think that they're the best so far in terms of acting a good faith and really trying to get atom alignment, really trying to do something for the Cosmos Hub itself. Um, what happens to the stars token exactly? Or is that really up in the air? Like in your mind, what would be the ideal scenario, I guess, for what happens with the stars token?
So just some context initially first. Um, Stars launched at a really weird time in 2021 where like exchanges like didn't support Cosmos assets and stuff like that. And it was very kind of hard to like get it on centralized exchanges and stuff like that, especially for like a really small team. It's like to launch a token like these days, especially, um, you need to like, do like a VC raise, in like, something like at least over 10, like 20 million or something like that. Like that's why
Mm,
you see crazy raises by like, Barachain and like, Inisha and some of these teams. Because if you want to build up the liquidity, you need to like, you need to get like market makers and all these like liquidity providers and get on all these centralized exchanges and stuff like that. And that needs like its own team, right? And that's like its own product. And and at Stargaze, that was very tough to do because we never did like a super massive VC raise or anything like that, and when we don't have connection to centralized exchanges and stuff like that. We're like a small product team, and we were building this thing. Um, Anyway, given that context, so that's why I think getting absorbed by something like bigger, like Atom, is good, because Atom is in all the centralized exchanges, and it has a lot of liquidity. It has
Yeah.
a lot of stake and users. Um, but the way I seeing it work is that I see stars like doing some kind of like burn and claim, right? So like stars will like convert to Atom at some ratio. Now, I do think that ratio should be higher than the current market cap. I don't think the current market cap reflects the
Yeah.
value uh, of of Stargaze. So that's the case we will be making um, in this post that we're going to be posting to the hub.
Mm.
Because if you look at our monthly active users, if you look at the retention rates, um, if you look at the cost to acquire each user, if you look at the battle tested team that's been building together for 4 years, like if you look at like the brand equity, and if you look at all the collections that are worth like over 15 million, right? Like if you add up all the stuff together, um, it's much more than the market cap. And
Yeah.
and also, if you just take away the stars token and just try to value Stargaze as a product, I guarantee you it'll be like higher than the market cap.
Oh, definitely.
Um, yeah,
Definitely.
I mean,
Right.
Magic Eden, like if you look at the competitors, they're valued in like the 150 millions or whatever, right? So, like the hub would be getting a steal no matter what here.
Yeah. I don't even want to go down that road, but I have never been a fan of using the token market cap as if it was like a stock, like
It's
the
not,
market.
because you can manipulate it so easily. Like, I can go get like a couple of like $1 million loan tomorrow, and like, go and like radically impact the market, right?
Oh man, I was talking to Brady the other day briefly, and I came up with an idea off the top of my head. You guys could just do a mint and burn all the stars that's used to mint the collection, and that would be enough in this low liquidity environment to move the price quite a bit. So it might be the quote unquote value of the token itself, but the token itself on any platform doesn't capture the value of the code, the trading activity, the team, um, the users themselves. It just doesn't. It doesn't.
It just doesn't. And these market caps are they're manipulated a lot. Like if you look at
Easy. Yeah.
like a lot of the top assets, right? I mean, you saw what happened with Mantra, right?
Ah,
Um,
yeah.
like, you know, teams would own, what, 40, 50, 90% of the float or whatever, right? And easily control the market cap. Like we never did any of this stuff.
You should have. You should have
I
just.
know, in retrospect, right?
No, I definitely hear you there. I got. Let me see what else I got for you. In your head, have you worked out a number that you think is acceptable, or are you still flexible to where you're going to put the forum post, have some back and forth, and then maybe convene with either the other side or your team and try to ballpark it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're going to do the forum post, and then um, I imagine go back and forth a little bit. Um, but the one thing I am going to say though is that I think we should use, if we're going to be going by the market cap, we should kind of do it at an earlier date. Uh, we should do it at a date before there was a leak, right? So there was a leak
It's months,
uh,
months.
a few months ago, right? That um, the hub might be kind of merging with Stargaze, and then there was some confusion after that, and that caused a bunch of validators to like offboard, and there's caused some people to dump the token, and so that had some adverse effects. So I think that should be accounted for in any
Yeah,
target market cap.
and just for people in the chat, while he was talking, I went on Osmosis and I put in a hypothetical trade a $10,000 trade sends the token down 25%, but a $10,000 buy only has a price impact in the other direction of 18%. It's a big, it's just not a reliable number. And I don't think there is a platform that has an actual product where the token represents the value of the product. The token's role is either money for the chain or simply to do consensus and governance. I can't think off the top of my head of a token that does anything other than that. Um, and it's the same with osmosis, right? Like osmosis is different because the token is the liquidity on the platform. On Stargaze, the NFTs are the liquidity. It's a little bit different, but there's
Yeah,
no
I
built.
mean I think that's an issue that we always had, is because like the stars is staking token, it secures the chain. But we were also using it for the apps because I just thought it'd be simple to have just one token for everything, right? So
Yeah,
it
of
governed
course.
the apps, and there was at one point where, um, like, even the marketplace revenue was going to the stars token, right? So there was like, um, it's kind of weird because tokens always have like a narrative, right? And sometimes certain narratives are hot and some are not. Like I remember, so like there was a narrative around um, like okay, what I'm trying to say is, okay, for example, like DYDX, I think at one point they were giving away, they had like crazy yield on their token, um, but the token still wasn't like doing that great, even though it had crazy yield.
Mm.
Um, so that's like, paying like a really good dividend, right? Um, because people would rather have like tokens that have uh, more like speculative value, I guess, right?
I remember a post about that actually. They were paying their yield in USDC as well.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah, yeah,
remember that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And stars had like back in the day, it had like real yield of something like 4% or something like that was,
Mhm.
wasn't terrible. I think it was one of the first Cosmos tokens that had yield, right? Uh, um, but it also like didn't necessarily like align with like the narrative because there wasn't like a narrative that like, oh, tokens with real yield are like a thing now,
No,
right?
if anything, the narrative is no product. The token has to be brand new, completely unproven,
Yeah,
and there has to be insane inflation.
yeah.
Which, right? Like, if the inflation isn't triple digits, it's like, why do I want to buy that? If the inflation is manageable, single digits with a real yield, people would rather like play in traffic than hold a token like that in Web3. It's ass backwards compared to like the real world, right? Like,
Well, I mean, even that narrative changed a lot, right? So, like in 2021, when Stargaze launched, the narrative was like a high inflation token, and if you launch a token without high inflation,
no,
like
you would
that was a
dead
bad
on
thing,
arrival. Yeah.
right? But now, if you launch a token with high inflation, it's like, oh my god, inflation is too high. Just another Cosmos token with high inflation, right? Like the narrative like keeps changing all the time, and then that's why it's so hard being a founder in this space because like people would want something, and then you do it, and then after you would do it, then they're like, oh, now that's no longer the narrative. Now we want what you used to do. Right?
Uh,
So
listen,
it's crazy.
when people complain in this space, that's the only time where I want to say we're early,
Yeah.
and like we're early. That it's like it's triggering. But you got time for one more question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can do one more.
All right, I got two people asking kind of the same thing. Has to do with like whether or not you get the deal that you think Stargaze, your team, and the users deserve. Any serious consideration for moving to another chain? In other words, would you shop Stargaze around, I guess, if you think the hub is way off on the number that you guys determined to be fair?
Um, yeah, and in fact, I'm already doing that. Like I want the best deal for Stargaze. I want the best deal for the token holders. I care a lot about Stargaze stakers. I don't know if I can make them whole, but um, I want them, to get something out of it. People who've been using Stargaze for a very long time. the creators, the stakers, the token holders. Um, and I'm I'd prefer to go with the hub.
Right.
Um, but I think ultimately it's up to governance, right? Stargaze governance would also have to vote on a few things. Um, but I think ultimately I'll end up going with the best deal. But it is definitely up to the voters though.
Besides price, in the end, what's one non-negotiable or deal breaker that you have in the back of your head that must be part of the deal to make it go forward?
I mean, I'm not going to settle for something that I don't think is below what Stargaze is worth. I know what Stargaze is worth. I know what we had built over the past 4 years. I know what it is compared to other products in the ecosystem. I know I have metrics and stats on our usage, our users, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not gonna accept something that is not worthwhile for Stargaze.
All right. Well, I got nothing else. If you want to have the last word, if you got anything that we missed that you want to get out there, I mean, feel free.
Yeah, I wanted to have the Hub forum post up. It's not up yet. I do apologize for that. It is still, still kind of tweaking it and like refining it. Um, hope to get it up later this week. Um, and yeah, thanks for giving me some airtime, and let's do this again sometime.
Yep. Hopefully, see you in the flesh one of these days as the weather gets nicer. I don't know if you guys in the
Absolutely.
chat know, but crypto, what we do is all the founders blow all their money on rooftop parties in New York City, and then people like me and Stargaze team, we just go for the free drinks and then we leave. It's
Yeah,
how it goes.
maybe if this works out, we'll have a rooftop party. We you know we we,
Oh,
we
nice.
we haven't done anything like that yet. So
I meant as a participant on someone else's rooftop party. That's more
yeah,
fun. But
yeah, yeah,
I
good.
appreciate it, man. This is good info. It's interesting just because it's like, I mean, first time I've heard of, you know, some kind of consolidation, which I think is due. And maybe this, if it happens the right way, both sides are happy. Maybe this will end up being replicated, maybe throughout Cosmos. Who knows? But I appreciate it, man. Thanks
Thank you,
for
man.
coming in.
All right, take care.
All right.
Have a good day.
All right. That's it. That was your live stream, guys. Pretty interesting that as someone who's not technical, someone who's not part of the Stargaze team or hub inner workings in any way, I would think, okay, they're migrating contracts to the hub. Like that's what it sounds like to me. We've seen we've seen teams put outposts where they duplicate their app on another chain, whether it's like, between Archway, Neutron, or whatever the case might be. Shane looks at this as almost like a real world merger and acquisition. In the beginning, was able to lay out what he thought were the pieces of Stargaze that make the whole thing work. Um, Users being number one, which I think is I would agree with that. I think for any marketplace, the users are what makes it work. You can build whatever you want. If nobody uses it, I mean, people will just use the next thing that has traffic on it, right? So I'm interested to see what happens here. Um, I would like a deal that's satisfactory for both sides. Like, it doesn't make sense within Cosmos to have one team get a great deal, rip off the other team, and now half the users don't want to use it because they feel like they got screwed or something like that. That would be a catastrophe for both sides. And I don't think the market cap of the token is like the stock market cap for a company. It's not even close. Once you get under 50 million market cap and you're only traded in liquidity pools, one user can move the price. I'm not a whale. I can move the price of stars 20-25% right now if I want to. That's that the liquidity pools don't work, right? They don't work for that. So that's it. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of the week. I'm definitely going to share out that forum post when I see it on the hub forum. Thanks for everybody for getting involved in this live stream. Maybe we'll